clearly very passionate about character education, and you're going to explain all of this to us in a minute. So, what was it that drove you to bring character strengths and virtues into your classroom?
I could say that it all started when I was a child, and there were certain movies that I watched that just resonated with me, and they were all about character building and that kind of thing. But they were really more from a sports mentality and that thing of having to try harder and, that grit element and that perseverance and don't give up and that rolling your sleeves up and getting on with it. But there's a lot more to it than that. And I actually was fortunate enough to come across this study by Christopher Peterson and Martin Seligman. Martin Seligman is known now as the godfather, I think, of positive psychology, and he's led this work for the last 20 years. So once I came across this provided all this language, all this simple vocabulary for our children. And I'm talking at elementary level, I'm talking first graders, kindergartners, can really appreciate some of these terms. And I'm not saying that we immerse them in all 24 strengths at kindergarten level, but by the time they get to third grade, this can easily be language and vocabulary that all of our elementary school kids know and understand and are, more importantly, practicing in their everyday life, and it's who they hopefully can become. And that's the aim, without it being anything that takes away from our curriculum. It doesn't add anything to the plate of the teacher, because teachers are so overworked and their expectations are so much. So having this on the wall every day, and how it works for me is in morning meetings, we sit down and we have a 10-minute chat about everything. How was your weekend? What did you do last night? What did you have for dinner? Anyone watch a good movie? Hopefully some kid will have a decent joke, but if they haven't, I've always got a load of those up my sleeve for them, and they love those. You can tell my cynicism there, right? But then we come back to this, and I'll talk later a little bit more specifically about how I actually use these every morning and how we use them within the curriculum, how we use them for reading and how we use them to help writing narratives. But there's no handouts, there's no printing off a PDF and trying to teach this and deliver it. It comes from the children. The children know these words and they have the language, and therefore they most importantly use this for self-reflection. And it's that reflection that is the most powerful thing.
You already mentioned Martin Seligman. Who else has inspired you to bring strength and these virtues into your classroom?
So yeah, and as I already mentioned, Carol Dweck was probably the first person I read, the first book I read on the area of positive psychology, and this idea of our growth mindset and our brains being having plasticity, as she refers to it, and this notion, or what we believe now to be a fact, that our brains grow in the same way that muscles grow. And the more we use them, the stronger they get. So this mentality of I can't do this being switched by the words I can't do this yet becomes such a powerful thing. And this is nothing new. I totally appreciate that. What I feel should be new and we should be doing more work on is really not just saying to kids, hey, use your growth mindset, because some kids don't know the pieces that make up a growth mindset. And that's where we come back to the character strengths piece, because a growth mindset isn't just something you can wake up one morning and say, right, I'm going to have this. You have to consciously know what parts of your character contribute to that. Well, a love of learning contributes to a growth mindset. Yeah. Self-regulation contributes to a growth mindset. As we go over here, we've got, as I'm bending backwards, we've got hope. Hope is a huge thing, and the theory of hope is a huge topic, that without hope, people don't get out of bed in the morning. I mean, hopelessness is, there's a relationship between hopelessness and depression. So I'm not here and I'm not a doctor. I'm not talking about how you overcome depression. I'm talking about in a sense of before we get anywhere close to those conditions, we have to maintain an element of hope. And we're not talking about a wish, we're talking about I can see something, I can make a goal to get to that, and I can put strategies in place. And this brings me onto the work of Angela Duckworth. Brilliant, brilliant woman who legitimized, if you like, the Rocky story. For me growing up, and I'll talk more in another time about movies and songs that inspired me as a child. Angela Duckworth's grit theory is the power of passion and perseverance over a period of time to achieve set goals. So you can't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to climb Mount Everest. There is a whole strategy that goes into that. There's preparation, there's mental preparation, there's physical preparation. And for some kids, being able to understand how to find the common denominator of fractions is their own conquering Mount Everest, right? So every challenge is relatable and relative to each individual. Without hope, there is no conquering the challenge because you're not even going to get out of bed to address that challenge. You need a love of learning. Curiosity, more often than not, contributes to a growth mindset. If you're not curious and interested in the thing that you're doing, then why are you going to try and achieve that goal? So all of these character strengths are really important to who we are, and more importantly, who we want to become, so that we can achieve the things that we want to achieve. And ultimately, the broad goal is happiness, and not happiness in that like laid back, I just want to be happy in my little world. Genuine deep down satisfaction, and that satisfaction of achieving goals, being happy with who you are in yourself, lack of regrets, those kind of things. So yeah.
Could you share with us now some examples about how you use character strengths language in your classroom?
It's a great question, because this is really where the rubber does meet the road in social and emotional learning. And if I'm being completely transparent, I sometimes feel that some social and emotional programs that we have, we talk about it, we theorize it, but we don't really put it into practice. And with this language being immersed in the classroom and children immersing themselves in the language, it sticks. I find it really sticks. So there are actually 4 ways that I use this language in my classroom at elementary level and at middle school level. And the first example I'll give is the reflection piece. So we come in the morning, we sit down on the carpet, so everything here is a strength. However, just like some muscles in our bodies, we might have to work a little bit harder, and then we may need to go to the gym in order to find that we've got a slight imbalance. And some muscles need some extra work. However, they're still working, they're still strong, we just have to make them stronger. So I'll ask the class, I'll say, okay guys, does anyone want to, volunteer a strength that they feel is one of their top strengths? And Joey will put his hand up and he'll say, yeah, curiosity. I think curiosity is my top strength. And like everything else, it's like, well, prove it. So Joey, can you give us an example of where you've demonstrated curiosity? And he'll say, oh, well, when I go home, I watch Netflix documentaries and I like reading about volcanoes and earthquakes and natural disasters. I'm really fascinated about nature that way. And by Joey doing that, it's far more powerful than anything I as a teacher can do, because all of a sudden other people are hearing a peer of theirs talk about things that they probably absolutely can do the same thing. They just didn't have the confidence to do it. So having those conversations in the classroom, next thing is all hands go up. Every time, without fail, all hands go up. Oh, kindness is my strength. Sally, tell us why kindness is your strength. Well, I always look after my friends, and I've got younger siblings, and I always, make sure that they're safe, and I like giving treats out, and I'm generous. And then everyone starts showing off their strengths, and that's step 1. It's a beautiful thing. So the second way I use strengths in the morning meeting is the flip. It's a case of, okay, now you've told me you're great at all these things. Now, who's got the courage, who's got the bravery and the honesty to tell us something that you feel you probably have a slight imbalance with? You know, are there any strengths up there that you're not quite on point with as the strength you just talked about? And this is everyone's favorite, self-regulation. Oh, I could be better at self-regulation, right? And the funny thing there is I want to say, yeah, so could I. So could I, right? So we've all got our things. Prudence is my favorite because they really love the word prudence instead of good choices. So my favorite thing to say is, so Joey, you know, as curious as you are you being prudent right now? It's so less condescending than saying, are you making a good choice right now? When they know they're not. Right? So giving this language just elevates their level where they feel a little bit more intellectual as well. And having those conversations that just elevate them it's a beautiful thing. It really is.